Welcome to the latest episode of FoodTech Stories. I'm your host, FoodTech marketing expert Megan Thomas. FoodTech Stories features the leaders pioneering new approaches to technology, collaboration, and storytelling in the food tech and ag tech space. Food and agriculture are changing, and fresh ideas and leadership are needed to sustainably feed the growing global population. Join us every other week as we talk to a founder, operator, or visionary in food and agriculture. Today, my guest is Gavin Schneider, and Gavin is co-founder and CEO of Maia Farms, a Canadian startup that is focusing on mushroom mycelium. Welcome to the podcast, Gavin.
Thank you for having me, Megan.
Wonderful. Well, let's jump right in. What drove you to co-found Maia Farms?
Maia came out of a literal moonshot. In 2021, we entered what was called the Deep Space Food Challenge, along with the partner organization Ecoation. Over a 4-year period, we came up with a system to feed astronauts on a future mission to the moon or Mars. There were a number of prototypes built throughout this stage, small-scale production system to full-scale demonstration. Each stage, there was a selective weaning of technology and competitors, beat out a number of high-profile universities, and we were doing this with just a very small team. We ended up winning first place in this. This is really formed the core of the technology and philosophy behind what Maia Farms is. The first prototype that we created there was what was called space bacon. And so we did what was called an aerial mycelial mass, mycelium being the root structure of mushrooms. Through that time, we ended up just honing in on the technology and what we're able to do here. We turned our gazes downward and really focused on how can we actually turn this thinking and this motivation into a meaningful agriculture technology and ingredient company. I've dedicated my life to improving agricultural practices. I'm an agronomist by training with an agricultural background. My family still farms in the prairies. I got a lot of motivation and experience growing food at industrial scales and really doing this everywhere from Southeast Asia to Mexico to Belgium. What Maia represents for me is the opportunity to bring forward a controlled environment technology production system for protein. The same growth that took place in the greenhouse industry over the last 25 years, we're going to see this happen with the protein industry as we move from low efficiency outdoor field production to high efficiency, high yield indoor food production. That's the transition that we want to lead here at Maia.
What do you think is driving that shift from outdoor large field production to indoor production?
Food production on any scale is very challenging. It requires a great patience. It requires a healthy bank account to bankroll. And when you're doing this with the risks of climate, people are facing difficult challenges when it comes to drought, when it comes to wildfires, a big pressing issue here in Canada today. Being able to bring more efficiency to the work that you're doing. Over the course of the last 25 years, there's been a real rise of agricultural entrepreneurs coming in with a different mindset rather than just a pure kind of family farming operation and turning to technology to be able to produce food and being able to do this with fewer resources, fewer inputs, and with higher output and higher yields. It doesn't matter what commodity we're necessarily looking at, whether this be pork production, as you're familiar with, or chicken production. We've just moved into higher intensity production systems. I'm coming at this with the mushroom mycelium specifically is that most economic, most environmental, and it's also an ethical form of food production where we're able to pursue at a big scale and feed people with nutritious ingredients.
Wonderful. What do you see as the core problem that your startup is solving?
By mid-century, the world is going to require about 30% more protein production. Being able to achieve that with existing resources and food production systems in both plant and animal agriculture, we are going to face challenges as a global community. The challenge with plant-based proteins is that they've underperformed in taste and texture. They were positioned as a solution to get people onto lower carbon intensity foods, more resource intensity foods, but that shift didn't really take place at a meaningful scale. That largely comes down to the end consumer who are eating these products aren't being satisfied because of the taste and texture if they're eating this as a replacement for meat products. most of the North American population just isn't ready necessarily for that shift. I'm not vegetarian myself. I still consume animal proteins. I grew up raising animal proteins with my family. What we're looking at here is something that is far more sustainable and has a lower resource input compared to animal-based agriculture. Cellular-based agriculture has also been positioned as a solution for feeding this increased population, but most consumers are going to be unfamiliar with that. It still has a number of technical hurdles before it has the scaling capability to meet agricultural requirements of producing food by the tonnage. At a big scale, we're solving the food production protein challenge, and then directly with the people that are eating our food, they're looking for better taste and texture.
And certainly, at least here in the United States, cellular agriculture is also facing some headwinds from a legislative standpoint. What was the single biggest challenge that you overcame in the early days of your firm?
In any type of biotechnology, going from lab concept to pilot scale, demonstration scale to commercial is a very difficult pathway that's fraught with unit economics challenges to the yields, challenges to what the product performance is going to do. We've been working on this problem for the last 4 years, really scaling up our technology with limited resources. We pursued a model, a CapEx light and asset light approach over the course of the several years because investing into this liquid state fermentation technology upfront is very expensive. It takes a huge amount of capital to build these systems. And then once you build a pilot scale demonstration, you're already too small for it to meet your customer demand. We've been able to focus on solving that scaling challenge by working with partners really truly from coast to coast here in Canada. And now we're expanding into the United States with our production with these partners. What we've actually been able to do while taking this approach is come up with a process that yields probably about 3 times higher than what others have been doing in this industry to date. We've achieved full regulatory approval for this, unlike cellular-based agriculture, because mushrooms are familiar. People like this. We've been able to work with our customers, with our, let's say, limited supply at each stage of this to get them to say, yes, this is the product that we want. And now we've been able to scale up, I believe, 50 tons of product movement already this year. We're doing this really from about 100 square feet in a downtown Vancouver office.
And thinking about the field of, we'll cast it as biomass fermentation, what about that sector do people not understand? What is a unique challenge that sector's facing that isn't well known?
Maya is positioned directly as a B2B ingredient supplier. Other groups in this space have tried to do both production and productization. Those are two different business units and challenges that go along with this. You have to solve the core production of those ingredients, which you have people that produce the olives, and you have people that press the olives into oil. Typically, those are two very distinct businesses. With the early technology and the early wave of enthusiasm, people attempted to do a full vertical integration. They go, oh, I can make the protein and I can make products and put them on shelves. We don't think that's the right way to do it. You need to have people specialize in just the pure production of the ingredients. You won't see Maya's ingredients on the shelves at the supermarket. We will be incorporated as a core component in a number of different food application builds, whether that be in hybrid meat sausage applications, ice cream applications, snack food applications. The way that our ingredient will fit in and support different food manufacturers to create better for you products that are more nutritious, delicious, and sustainable. We're really forming that back end. In the food industry, it's turtles all the way down. There's a number of players that contribute to the food that you eat before it ever gets to your plate. That's true for most of the food that we eat today, is that it doesn't just come from a single source supplier. We've integrated, we believe, in the right spot of the supply chain. And our customers, every people that are making things from meat analog taco meat to soups, we're really kind of finding that right niche where they're looking for an alternative to soy protein. We're coming in with a better solution for them.
And how do you see your production process, your outputs as being superior to soy protein?
We have 3 different product lines. We produce Maia flour, Maia form, and Maia fresh. So the flour is a 80 mesh and 500 mesh oyster mushroom flour that goes into baking and confectionery applications. Our Maia Form is a textured mushroom protein, which comes in 5 different formats: grounds, bites, strips, and flakes. Maia Fresh is 100% fresh mycelium ingredient. When we present these to a food manufacturer, they have different options for where they want to integrate into the supply chain or into their food production strategy. The rate that the food manufacturers have adopted our ingredients over their traditional soy or pea or fava protein sources has been actually astonishing, and how fast they're willing to make that change to pay a price premium, because we're not at price parity with soy protein. We are a long way from that. The benefits that they're getting to their product applications justify that increased cost for this today. We support our customers with application development, know-how, training on our website. We've got a number of application guides and videos. That's really to educate the work that we're doing and to accelerate adoption.
Have you learned anything as a team, either directly or through your partners or other stakeholders, about what consumers think about mushroom mycelium? What have you learned so far about how you may enter the market and may be received?
2 of our main core customers today are Sprague Foods. We launched with them into a number of both their plant-based soup market, but they're also doing a hybrid approach where they're combining our mushroom protein, their beef protein within the products. Amazing is learning about how the product performs within the retortion process. It doesn't disintegrate when it goes through a canning process, which opens a whole range of applications that soy proteins have typically not fared so well in because they fall apart. Doing a soy-based TVP within the soup application just doesn't actually turn out that great. Another one of our customers is a company called Kula Foods, who's launched with a lineup of Afro-Caribbean products. We're performing as the goat in their product, and it just absorbs some of the curries that they're adding onto these products amazingly. But where we're going to have a big learning opportunity, and something that I'm really excited about, is we've launched a project with the Greater Vancouver Food Bank, our Nourish Life project. We are going to be feeding 60,000 people here next month with our products directly, and engaging directly with clients here to understand, you're going to cook with this product at home. Here's a list of, let's say, culturally appropriate recipes that you're able to go and turn this into a highly nutritious dish. And it has a 2-year shelf life for our dry formats. They don't have to take up refrigeration space to provide people with a high quality protein. When people actually go to eat it, we just had a kickoff lunch with them about 2 weeks ago, and we fed about 60 people. Just the feedback. These are 65-year-old males who went, I never would have thought that this wasn't pulled pork. The feedback and the way that people reacted to it was amazing. I've never had somebody like eat our product and go, nah, not for me. Like, people really enjoy it. They want to come back for more. And that is the challenge. Most people who have experienced plant-based foods, a lot of them come back with digestibility problems. They go, it just doesn't sit right in my stomach. The bite wasn't quite there. That's been amazing to see that we've solved this with something very simple, just mushrooms.
In my experience with meat alternatives, consumers are also looking for those sensory cues in the cooking process. And so they're expecting something that's maybe, if it has a pinkish cast, to turn darker. What we would find is that folks were overcooking the meat alternative product. It was so different, and they are really seeking similar experiences. So it's great to hear you're getting early traction there. Why did you choose to partner with the food bank? I think that's a very unique approach to take, but I'm intrigued by it. So I'd love to hear more.
We want to make an impact, and we want to feed people at a massive scale. There are disadvantaged people in our communities today that are not accessing the right nutrition. If you really want to make an impact on somebody's lives, for them to be able to go out and find a new job, improve their home life, you have to start with the nutrition and the food you're putting in your body. Our focus as a company is improving brains, bodies, and planets. If you really want to have somebody perform their best, you have to give them the right food. You start with providing access to higher quality nutrition, and you're able to really turn somebody's whole life around. It's really that simple. And I spent time working in Southeast Asia and Laos, and in the most food insecure region, Southeast Asia. This was an area that was heavily bombed. People were really food insecure. I lost about 40 pounds. I got to experience what true hunger felt like. We have a huge population of people across North America that are facing this on a daily basis. We can better support them. And I really love the Vancouver Food Bank's approach to this. The way that they're connecting with clients and providing them with a lot of dignity with the food that they're eating, it's amazing. This is a really world-class organization that we're working with today.
Outstanding. You spoke to providing food to people who are food insecure, and that is a key component of your mission. Let's talk a bit about sustainability and how does that show up in the work that you do?
One of our values as a company is called Planet Forward. We can make an impact on environmental sustainability through the food that we eat, unlike any other choice that we make as individuals. 4 times a day, we choose which food to put into our bodies, and where that food comes from really has an impact. I spent a lot of time studying climate change. It's been swept under the carpet, let's say, over the last couple of years with other news stories. And this is still something that's going to be a massive challenge for future generations. We're still not adequately addressing as a global species here. The food that we eat can greatly contribute to meaningful solutions that are readily adoptable. When we look at the root causes for massive environmental changes on a planetary scale, it largely comes down to the fact that we're clearing large amounts of natural habitats, rainforest, natural grasslands, wetlands, to clear this for commodity crop production, whether that be soy, barley, canola, to go into animal feed. We just address that root problem there, which is we take a huge amount of land to go and feed this to something that is very inefficient. Well, we can go through what we call sustainable intensification and be able to produce more food on less land by just thinking about the efficiency and the engineering and the economics that go into this. That's a big driver for the work that we're doing. We just finished a life cycle assessment on our process, and we're able to achieve CO2 carbon emission equivalents of about 8 kilograms per unit mushroom mycelium produced, which is very low. That's on par with high efficiency chicken today, and we believe we can get that even lower. We want to be able to provide a sustainable food production technology that is able to work in different decentralized locations on a global scale, and the process, the genetics that go into this. Norman Borlaug, the father of the Green Revolution in the 1960s, spent a huge amount of time identifying the right wheat cultivars that are able to produce higher yields of wheat with smaller environmental footprint. The work that him and his team were able to do actually led to a Nobel Peace Prize food security for truly billions of people. What we need today for the next stage of environmental sustainability is a group to come in and find these solutions for large-scale protein production challenges. We need 30% more, and we need an agricultural approach to do this.
Absolutely. And do you see these collectives coming together today? Do you see folks sitting around the table in person or virtually to drive that food system level change? Or do you see continued opportunity there?
We're fortunate to be a leading voice in this conversation today and coming at this with entrepreneurial thinking that is rooted in the food itself and backed by technology, backed by the science that goes into this. These conversations are happening, but we need to accelerate. We need to move faster. And the biggest challenge that we're going to face is how fast the consumers accept and adopt this. What I see is a world where mushroom mycelium as an ingredient is as common as chicken on your plate. The supply needs to catch up to be able to do that. To justify increased supply, the people need to be demanding this. What we can see is that people are making those changes. Most people are not driven by environmental factors.
No, that's right.
That is not a driving factor. What drives them is taste and texture. We want to meet certain environmental goals and targets with the work we're doing. That necessarily doesn't drive increased demand for our products.
Ideas as straightforward as recipe development, working with nutritionists, working with chefs. I know you have a program with chefs. Thinking about making the food relevant and appropriate for the way people want to eat is absolutely the way to go. So you had mentioned, Gavin, that you grew up on a farm. So what was the nature of the farm that you grew up on?
My family runs a commercial grain farm. So they do wheat, barley, peas, canola, lentils this year, large scale commodity crop agriculture, big combines. This is thousands of acres that they're doing. My 2 brothers still run the farm today. I draw a lot of inspiration from the work that they do. And growing up in an agricultural, very rural area, forces you to think differently about resource efficiency, availability, and what does it actually mean to produce food at a truly massive scale. Less than 2% of the Canadian population is involved in food production today, and that's going to continue to decrease. Today's agricultural entrepreneurs need to be able to produce more food with fewer people, with fewer resources.
That experience growing up on the farm and then your academic experiences in agronomy, how has that shaped you as a CEO of a startup?
I believe I have great patience for the technology and the scale of the change that we're looking to do here. If you're growing a crop of vegetables or a field of wheat, that's going to require the ability to put the right fertilizer on the right plants. You're not hand watering your wheat crop, but you're providing the right nutrients at the right time. When you're building a team, you need to be able to provide the right nutrients at the right time. You need to provide them with the right resources, financial incentives in place to grow to their best. I have two other co-founders. So I like to say Maia was founded by a farmer, an engineer, and a neuroscientist. And each one of us are coming at the growth of the business with our respective skill sets. My job as CEO has been to get the right team and to be able to give them what they need to turn into a flourishing garden. I like to call it a pressure cooker, where I put everybody in a really small room and make a lot of friction.
Yeah.
That's what you need to spark innovation and healthy debate among people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a very small office that we work out of.
So patience and close quarters. Wonderful. I've enjoyed our conversation. I do believe Maia Farms is doing a lot of things right. I'm interested to see what's ahead for you. If folks want to find out more about the work that you're doing, where should they go?
MaiaFarms.ca or MaiaFarms.com. A lot of information on our website, cooking videos. You can order a sample of the product yourself, which is very exciting. So you can get a 125 gram bag of our form, our textured mushroom protein product line, cook with it at home and bleed for yourself. We're very active on the LinkedIn. We have an Instagram presence as well, and that's been getting some traction. I put the right people on the team and they go and run with it. It's a lot of fun seeing, what a 22-year-old does with Instagram. So that's been good. They're much better at it than I could be. Contact us, website, LinkedIn. And if you want to get a discount on a sample, you can use the code FOODFIRST with a capital F.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for your time, Gavin. I've enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for joining us today on the latest episode of FoodTech Stories. Be sure and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform and keep an eye out for our bi-weekly episodes. I'm your host, Megan Thomas, founder of Ladris 17. FoodTech Stories is edited by TJG Media.